Many cultures tell stories about mythological creatures that go back hundreds of years and have become part of their folklore. Over the years, these stories become more embellished as they are passed down from generation to generation. But what if some of these stories are based on fact, and that there is evidence that these creatures are still alive? Following 5 cases tell stories of creatures that quite possibly still exist, and in some cases there are eyewitness accounts. Case 5. When imagining monsters that live underground, one of the first thoughts that might come to mind is the idea of a giant worm moving through the earth, and if such a thing was even possible. According to some reports, the answer to whether or not these creatures exist is yes. Any fan of the movie Tremors knows exactly what we mean, and has said that there is indeed a cryptid similar to the graboids in the remote areas of South America. The creature is known as the Minhocaua, the Portuguese for big earthworm. It is described as being an enormous beast, similar to a worm, and measuring anything between 75 and 100 feet long. The beast burrows through the earth and will feed on whatever it can catch when it moves above ground. Some accounts say that it has black skin, small eyes, a maw filled with sharp teeth, and a pair of tentacles on its mouth or head. The creature is said to be so huge that trenches are left in its wake as it moves, and that these trenches will collapse in on themselves and drag buildings such as houses into the ground. Other reports say that it is known to suck animals into the earth, including dogs and cats and livestock. One of the earliest accounts of a Minhocaua appeared in an article in the 1800s in the American Journal of Science, in which naturalist Auguste de Saint-Hilaire brought forward cases of cattle being pulled down into the earth or underwater by a massive worm in the Goiás province, often in front of witnesses. A German publication called Zoological Garden featured an article in 1877 written by zoologist Fritz Müller, who recounted an 1840 encounter with one of the worms in the Rio de Papagaios in Parana state. He recounted that a woman going to draw water saw an animal in the distance that she said was as large as a house moving along the ground. This happened in the same district where a young man witnessed a pine tree being overturned. The earth around the pine trees was moving, with an enormous black worm-like creature in the middle of it that was said to be around 25 meters long, with 2 horns on its head. As well as the instances of trenches being dug through the ground and unexplained earth tremors coinciding with appearances of a giant worm, the article mentioned a report from 1849 about a dead Minhocaua that was reportedly discovered stuck in rocks near Arapey, Uruguay. The article described the creature as having skin as rough as tree bark and scales similar to those of an armadillo. Müller claimed in 1870 that there were sightings of the creature in Lages, Brazil, when Francisco de Amaral Varela claimed to see a massive legless creature with a pig-like snout laid on the bank of the Rio das Caveiras. The creature disappeared into the ground and left a trench in its wake. Müller went on to investigate the claims, and despite not finding the creature itself, he did find unexplained trenches that appeared to have been dug by a large serpentine animal. The creature was seen on occasion in later years, but reports became rarer and rarer before stopping altogether, and there are practically no reports in the modern era. There are several theories on what the animals were. Cryptozoologist Karl Schucker theorised the Minhocaua was potentially an undiscovered giant Sicilian. These are limbless amphibious creatures that resemble earthworms and are native to the areas where the cryptid had been found. Famous cryptozoologist Bernard Heuvelmans wrote in On the Track of Unknown Animals that the creature may have been a surviving member of a prehistoric race of giant armadillo creatures called glyptodons. There is also the possibility that the Minhocao is an entirely new species, but there's no way to know this. That there are a few, if any, sightings in modern times also suggests that the creature has now become extinct, if indeed such a creature ever existed. Case 4. As if the thought of a giant worm wasn't disturbing enough, there's also the possibility of demonic underground bats. There have been several reports of these giant bats with black skin, massive serrated teeth, and 12-foot wingspans from the ghouls of Cameroon in West Africa, the Republic of Congo, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. These bats are known as Oletiao and commonly referred to as simply cave demons. The giant bats are said to leave their underground caves during the night to find any prey they can catch. The best known account of encountering an Oletiao comes from cryptozoologist Ivan T. Sanderson, who encountered the bat creatures himself while doing field research on the hammer-headed fruit bats of southern Cameroon in 1932. Sanderson claimed he was attacked by an enormous bat that he estimated was around 4 times larger than the fruit bats he was studying. He dubbed it the granddaddy of all bats. Curious to learn more about the creature, he asked the local guides what it was and was told that he had encountered an Oletiao from a nearby cave. The guides encouraged Sanderson to head inside because more of the creatures were bound to be around. The TV show Monsters Underground looked into accounts of a similar cave-dwelling bat. The team from the show headed into an underground cavern complex in Flagstaff, Arizona, on the hunt for a volcano cavern Oletiao. The episode showed the crew hearing unexplained noises and discovering anomalous heat signatures readings before losing their night vision and panicking. The encounter was questionable, just like another encounter from another TV show, this time Lost Tapes. Lost Tapes featured an account of underground bat monsters inhabiting the caves of Tora Bora in Afghanistan. The report supposedly came from US Marines, who described being attacked by humanoid bat creatures as they explored the caves in 2002. Unfortunately, as is the case with any TV show dedicated to hunting cryptids, everything is played to be as spooky as possible, and it's hard to determine how much, if any, truth there is to be found. Case 3. Some of the most scary reports of underground monsters are the reports of what could only be described as a kind of mysterious humanoid creature living underneath our feet. There are a surprising number of such reports, including one from the Chase Post in 2007. The publication published an article about a number of werewolf and Bigfoot sightings in a Cannock Chase area of England, and how they were potentially connected to reports of a tribe of subterranean creatures. The newspaper reported an account from a local resident in the area who believed the mysterious creatures were of subterranean origin and that they would use earthworks to reach the surface in order to hunt their prey, large animals such as deer. Case 2. Another story of ravenous and underground creatures comes from a report published in News Extra on July 14, 1974. The article reads like a synopsis for a terrifying horror movie. It recounts a report from 1944 by mining inspector Glenn E. Barger, who claimed that 15 miners had been eaten alive by a humanoid monster in the depths of mines in Dixonville, Pennsylvania, following a cave-in. When rescuers were able to break through the rubble, they found bodies that appeared to have been mutilated by a wild animal. The scene was so terrifying that no one ever used the mines again, and the incident was said to be kept secret for decades before Barger's son Frank unveiled the truth. The original report says that Barger was tasked by the mining company to uncover what had happened to the men who disappeared. He worked together with another inspector, Ted Walters, to penetrate the darkness and discover the bodies of the miners. The bodies appeared to have been mauled by a powerful creature of some kind. Barger wrote about the first corpse he found, saying that the man wasn't killed by the cave-in and that it was obvious that he had been killed by a wild animal. The other bodies were discovered to be in the same state, and others were missing entirely. As scary as all of this sounds, everything got worse when the rescuers themselves were trapped in the mine by a cave-in, stuck with the rest of the bodies in the mine, not to mention whatever had killed them. While the pair waited to be rescued, Barger claimed to have taken a nap and woken up to find something with them, which he described as being a kind of shadowy humanoid beast. He wrote, "I fell asleep for a time. It wasn't long. Suddenly, I felt hot breath on my face. That thing wasn't of this world. We sat silently reflecting on our fate. I swear I expected some slimy thing to drag both of us away." Barger would also speculate that the creature had caused the cave-in to keep them trapped, and that it was also responsible for the cave-ins that trapped the original miners. This time, the creature decided that it should leave the pair of inspectors alone and go back into the mines. The inspectors were later rescued just a few short hours later. This is no doubt a harrowing story, but we've been unable to discover other corroborating sources for it, and so one is left wondering if there is any truth to it. It certainly sparks the imagination, but that doesn't make it true by any means. Case 1. Another terrifying account comes from McAlester, Oklahoma, which supposedly occurred right before the Korean War. 3 men were exploring a cavern underneath what was described as being a haunted mound, where many different strange phenomena were said to have taken place, including cattle mutilation, ghost lights, and people and livestock going missing. The 3 men, whose identities are not known, apparently continued their way into the cavern and discovered a stone staircase that went down into a bottomless shaft. The men descended down the staircase for about a mile and found no sign of a bottom. The explorers started to worry that they would be unable to get back, and so they made their way up the staircase. They made their way back to the top, or at least 2 of them did, when the 3rd man screamed, and there was a gunshot. The 3rd man scrambled his way out of the dark, shaking and afraid. He explained that he was attacked by some hairy animal men as he was following them up the staircase. He had a yellowish liquid on his clothes that he claimed came from a creature he had shot, and that was enough to make the man run away as fast as their legs could carry them and never look back.